Hey guys, WY here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be going through some childhood favourites of mine from the retro gaming era. There is quite a few things in here that I think you'll really like, you might not have seen before. If you have, fantastic. Leave a comment in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Let's start off with number 1. First one off the mark, Down Under Dan. Now it's a great classic point-to-click RPG from the early 90s. I grew up with it as a child. I even played it in my primary school, believe it or not, as part of a sort of a thinking, sort of brainstorming session. Now, the way that Down Under Dan works is that Dan is a out-of-work bush pilot. Basically, he is close to bankruptcy, solvency, and he's on his last flight. And he's speaking to a guy in the outback, and he says, look, if you go out to the far reaches of the outback, to this location, they've been finding opals. Now, opals are a valuable gem in Australia, and he decides to take his luck. Now, the game is full of quirky sort of humour, ridiculous sort of gags. You're going to be jumping out of aircrafts, you're going to be dodging pelicans, you're going to be lighting fires, you're going to be building things. You know, it's very much MacGyver, but not as obviously complex. And each screen that you go into, each scene or setting or part of the game really requires a lot of exploration. Now, if you don't do the exploration, you don't pick up all the items that you find on screen or actually take the time to sort of investigate, look at things, then you do progress into the game, but you will die eventually. Because if you don't have those items to help you in the game, it essentially ends the game for you. You just don't have a choice. So basically, there are several icons. You have a hand, you have an eye, you have lips for speaking, and you have a walking icon as well to click and point to click and walk your way around the screens. Now, obviously, again, saving in the early 90s games, really important. If you don't save and you die, you start all over again. It's an absolute nightmare. There's no auto-saving. You really have to take the time and save. It's a lot of fun. I've finished the game maybe 2 or 3 times over the last sort of 15, 20 years. And if you are into that retro, you are into those sorts of games where you really have to think and you're up for a bit of Aussie humour, this is the one. Number 2. Coming in at number 2, we have Titanic Adventure Out of Time. Another point-to-click adventure, sort of RPG-style game. It is set on a virtual representation of the Titanic, meaning you can walk around, you can explore the Titanic, and it's considered one of those games that was really detailed for its time. All the fine details, the maps, the rooms, everything's been put into this game. So it's really quite a beautiful piece of art in my mind. You're originally a British spy and you're sent back in time to complete your top secret mission. Now, this mission will prevent World War I, Russian Revolution, and World War II. Basically, every decision you make throughout the game will actually give you a different ending. So it's quite engaging. It does take a while to get into. A lot of different items to pick up, a lot of different puzzles to play out. You also find the characters quite engaging. They're well scripted and they have great backstories that all intertwine throughout the game. Be sure that when you make decisions though, that you are prepared to go ahead. Like I mentioned earlier, with a lot of 90s games, you really have to save before you make any sorts of major decisions because they are going to affect your game dramatically. You really feel part of the game once you get past that first part, learning your way around, figuring out how the game works. It's relatively easy. This game is a great experience. It really helps you immerse yourself into the Titanic, knowing just how much detail they've involved. You navigate your way around the ship using your arrow keys left, right, forwards and backwards. You use your spacebar to open and close doors, whilst using your mouse as well to help navigate, click, pick things up, and help solve puzzles. You'll need to build relationships with characters from which you will probably meet again throughout the game. There's also a really detailed map which includes some fast travel, which is also nice. It also shows your location on the ship. Overall, great game, highly recommended. Moving on. Number 3.
Next up, number 3 is Spycraft, the great game, published by Activision in 1996. It's an extremely realistic and accurate spy game, mainly because they had worked with the former CIA Director William Colby and former KGB Major General Oleg Kalugin. You're a CIA rookie agent. You're out in the field doing a live fire exercise, and you receive word that the Russian presidential candidate at the time has been assassinated. Your instructor is then killed, and you later, at the ladder, find out that it was a former CIA agent that was behind both the hits. You then are sent out with a team to uncover the mystery, and the story unravels as you proceed. It's still a point to click, so don't expect an open world like your modern Fallout 4s. You're still navigating very similarly to Titanic, with the point arrow keys and the mouse as well. There's some live fire where you do use guns. It can be a little bit shocking to audience, this game, as there are interrogations. Part involves an electric interrogation, which can be switched off by the audience at the start of the game to censor the game as well. Game is not for the faint-hearted, but extremely gripping, almost like one of those thriller novels you just can't put down. The game got an 89% from PC Gamer, so at the time the ratings were very high for this game. I highly recommend you pick it up on Good Old Games or Steam and give it a crack. You won't be disappointed, I can guarantee it.
Number 4.
Next up is a Sierra Online classic favourite of mine from 1987. It's Police Quest: In Pursuit of the Death Angel. It was produced by an ex-police officer, Jim Walls, and it follows the story of Sonny Bonds, a police officer on the job who's doing a routine traffic incident that then unravels into a homicide sort of drug investigation. There were 2 releases. There was the original EGA release, released in 1987. This release is pretty old school and requires you to put manual input commands such as open door. This is extremely repetitive and can be very frustrating for some modern players. For me, this is my favourite release. Later on, there was a new release in 92. It was an enhanced remake with 256 colour VGA, and it was a point to click. It's much easier to navigate, much better to use, but I felt like it wasn't true to the original way of playing it. As you see, the driving physics are really very, very accurate, and you'll see I'll die several times throughout the next few seconds, so I highly recommend that you do make a save throughout this game. After several attempts, you'll see that I managed to park in a very orthodox way. I do love this game. I highly recommend that you check it out and have some patience if you're going to play the original. One of the most frustrating things I remember about this release was that it was a 3-disc floppy disk, and that we were missing disc 2 of 3. So I would get to the park scene, it would exit car, it would ask me to insert disc 2, and I never finished the bloody game. I didn't have the disc, and I never actually found out the ending to the game. I only finished this game probably in the last 6 years to finally see what happens at the end of Police Quest. Because of Good Old Games and Steam, we can finally play these releases in their old school glory. So I really recommend you check this one out. It's a lot of fun, and have some patience, as it is pretty tedious.
Number 5, guys. This is the last one. I really hope you enjoy it. Let's get to it.
Man, I swear, we were so lucky as a family. We had the coolest games. Space Quest, The Sarian Encounter, or Space Quest 1. 1986, 100,000 copies sold at the time. Huge hit. You're playing as a character, Roger Wilco. He's a janitor. He comes out of the closet at the start of the game. Aliens are attacking the ship. It's quite amusing in some parts. Very similar to Police Quest. You still have to do your input commands. So again, there were 2 releases, the EGA and the VGA release. For this presentation, I'm going with the EGA. But if you're a frustrated modern gamer, the point-to-click's probably your way to go. Roger has to make his way off the ship with the escape pod and crash lands on the planet Corona. The rest I'm going to leave up to you. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. Check it out, guys. Have some patience. It's a top game.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. They were just a couple of my top favorite retro games that I was first introduced to when I started gaming on the PC. Let me know yours in the comments below. I'm looking forward to hearing what your experiences were. And hit the subscribe button, and if you really like the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching. Bye bye for now.